Right, welcome to the FBC podcast. My name is Justin. As usual, I'm joined today by Nathan.
Hello.
And Greg.
Hello.
And for those of you unaware of the show, what we are is a group of friends who each week pick 2 picks each for this coming weekend's football action. We combine it into an accumulator together, and along with our anonymous teammate, if you will, wild card, we try to win money every week. There's some simple rules for the picks, most of which can be found on our website, thefootballbetclub.com, but some basic ones to remember. One of our picks has to be over 1.4, the second pick has to be over 1.65, and we use the decimalisation method rather than using the fractional method for discussing odds.
Yeah, okay, so we usually like to start the show with a little look at what happened last week, and what I thought we had quite a good week last week. I thought we did okay, apart from a couple of picks. I think we got 6 out of 8, which is consistent and consistently good. So I thought we did all right.
6 out of 8 is pretty good because we always recommend that you can shadow our bets perfectly if you want, all 8, and put them in your accumulator. But we always recommend that you listen to the discussion, figure out exactly which ones you think are going to come off, and maybe disregard a couple. So maybe we gave out some good tips last week. 6 out of 8 is pretty decent.
Obviously, we didn't win the full 8. We didn't get the full 8 game accumulator, but it's still a decent strike rate.
I'm not going to lie, I take a great deal of shame in the fact that last week the wild card did better than me.
Yeah, well,
it's a hard thing to take.
It was me and you who let the team down, really, wasn't it?
And, he's been in a desperate run of form, and he got 2 out of 2. So he did very well. I don't know if anyone's heard anything about the wild card this week.
I mean, his usual pigeon arrived with his tips to me, and I thought, well, I looked at the tips and I thought, well, okay, fair enough. But I haven't heard anything since. I mean, do you know where he's been?
No, anyone?
I don't actually. I think he's gone underground. I think he
secret agent style.
I think. Basically, I've heard rumours that he's involved in the British government in some way. And sometimes he pops up, sometimes he's there, sometimes he's easy to find, other times, it's kind of a decoded message in a back alley.
Well, maybe, if he's not been in touch this week because he's busy and he's involved in government, maybe he's the Chancellor of Exchequer.
Yeah, he's doing the budget, or he's the chief whip of the Tory party in some way. Maybe he's involved in high level.
Well, we need to have words if he's the if that's the case.
Yeah, we need to have words with him. Anyway.
But he probably doesn't need to bet on this 8-game accumulator if he's the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yeah.
But although I would like to expose the Chancellor of the Exchequer as being the wild card and in some way discredit him both in the gambling world and the political world, and get him fired from his position.
Yeah, well, I agree. So obviously in that red briefcase is just his gambling research. That's all it is. Yeah. So see that on the front of the paper.
It's just his research on the Bristol Rovers team.
Well, yeah, I mean, he got 2 out of 2 last week, which I'm guessing he's going to be sleeping like a baby this week because he's been so under pressure. But his first one was Bristol Rovers to beat Mansfield 1.9.
Great bet.
Yeah, I think we all said that it was a fairly safe bet, that one, and we all agreed last week that one would come in, and it did. It sailed in.
I'd like to say Bristol Rovers are a team that you can seem to rely on at home and away. They've got a very good away record if you're thinking of betting them. I've looked at them quite a bit, and they do seem to be quite a consistent team. I fancy them to go up, actually. So, yeah, good bet all round, I think.
I got a little stat about Mansfield. Apparently, they've not beaten anybody this season in the top half of the table.
Oh, good stat. I like that.
So if you're thinking about betting that in the future, if that lasts to the end of the season, it's probably unlikely, but it's something to bear in mind. His second one was the Monday night one, which is the last game of the betting episode, if you want to say it, or betting session. But he backed Leicester to beat Newcastle 1.5. That came off. And it was a tight game, wasn't it?
It was tight. I think it was a good bet when he picked it, but then all of a sudden, Rafa Benitez came to town, and everyone thought, "Well, hang on, Rafa's tactical. He's getting."
Well, this in light of last week's show,
you say all of a sudden, but as anyone who listened last week knew that we had the inside knowledge on this, that Steve McLaren was gone before the end of the week, before it was announced to the papers.
I think technically it was an exclusive on the FBC.
It was an exclusive.
Justin knew.
So tune in for betting tips and exclusive news on the Premiership.
Do you know which manager's going to be gone this week?
Justin? I can only hope it. I can only hope it'll be Roberto Martinez.
Oh, you got no chance because you won in the cup, mate. You got no chance.
Yeah, no.
But great goal though that won the game. Okazaki over a kick.
Yes, great goal.
Outstanding.
And do you know what? As excited we are about a small team going up to the top of the Premier League in this modern day and age, nobody on this earth is more excited as Gary Lineker. He's on
Lineker.
Twitter, he's on Facebook, he's on newspaper articles. He's doing everything he can
he
to be
wants
so
to-
excited about Leicester
What I
maybe
don't
winning.
like about that, he wants to take his clothes off. He loves himself so much. He's always in the papers, on some beach with someone in his knickers.
I
He wants-
went trick or treating around Gary Lineker's once. I was it wasn't recently.
Just in these stories, I don't know where these guys
I was about
these
10
stories
years
come
old.
from.
Was this
about
after
10
you
years
scored
old.
Dennis Bergkamp's goal in the FA Cup?
I was about 10 years old. I had a Kuwaiti friend called Taz who lived near Abbey Road, and we went trick or treating around his ends on Halloween.
Yeah.
And we very deliberately, because Taz seen him go into the house because he lived just round the corner, went and knocked on Gary Lineker's door,
Wow.
and he didn't answer.
I bet he was just
in
in
fact,
his
his
pants,
wife
wasn't
didn't answer either.
He didn't answer. What an anticlimax to that story.
Well, it was around the time that George Lineker, and this is on a sad note, had been kind of diagnosed with leukemia.
Yeah.
So we
who's George Lineker?
his son.
Oh yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
know that was the name of his son. I knew about the leukemia story.
And so we were very reluctant to knock on the door anyway, thinking that but then we thought we did, and
They might be busy, like.
I think the woman who answered his door was his wife, but I don't know what his wife looked like at the time. So
Well, yeah, I think it was a divorce.
it's actually a fairly terrible story.
Pretty
I
sad
went
story,
to a house in West London trick or treating that may or may not have belonged to Gary Lineker, and he didn't answer the door.
Either way, I think he's on to happier times now that Leicester City.
Yeah,
Premier
yeah,
League
he's
promotion,
doing. He's
Well, he's
so
got that-
I think
excited.
he went around
He's
his
had
house now trick or treating. He'd probably be like, "Yeah, have all my
Yeah.
stuff. We don't care."
He's had
So,
another divorce though
He's had
recently,
a
hasn't
messy
he?
divorce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Danielle, somebody. I
Daniel
don't know.
Buck, is that the name?
I don't know. I'm
Lineker.
so
It's Daniel
poor.
Lineker now. Let's be fair.
I think all three of us, our
Yeah.
football knowledge is far better than celebrity gossip. So
Hey,
Well,
what I
that's
would
not
like to
bad.
say, what I would like to say on Leicester City though is how happy I am personally for Wes Morgan, a player that plucked from non-league obscurity.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about Jamie Vardy, but how hard is it to come from non-league as a centre back? Like if you don't get bags of goals, and last season he was terrible. Last season everyone was slating him saying he can't do it in the Premier League.
he did.
And he's captain, and like him and Huth at the back there for Leicester City are looking as solid as anyone.
Yeah.
And for me, I'd be close to picking Wes Morgan in the England team.
Guess
Now,
how? You can't be picking Wes Morgan.
he is solid in there. If you want, all he does, the man was born to defend. He's like Phil Jagielka. He doesn't look that classy, although Phil Jagielka does look more classy than Wes Morgan. But he's just like, he's an absolute legend in the back. And Leicester City fans wouldn't replace him for anybody, I can guarantee.
Is he English?
He's English, yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't say necessarily against it. I think that if you look at the England squad, we've got kind of Stones who's not playing, Cahill who's had a poor season.
You see the Lukaku goal? Cahill was terrible for that
Yeah, he
goal.
got twisted inside
twisted
out.
into
Yeah.
Wes Morgan
Yeah.
was just boshed to
I'm
Lukaku
sorry,
to
hold
the
on.
foot.
There's nothing you can do against a force of nature like that, I'm afraid.
You've changed your tune, mate. I tell you what, I've heard you talk negatively numerous times this season about Lukaku.
Not
but
this season. This season I've been very, very effusive about him. I've said that he's grown hugely as a player. But going back to English centre-backs, you've got Jagielka who's at the end of his kind of career, really, at 33.
Well, Wes Morgan's pretty old.
Still
as well,
think he
but-
should play in the Euros, definitely, Jagielka for me. And then Chris Smalling.
Smalling, yeah, again,
Chris
again non-league.
Smalling, I guarantee, will get picked and he'll start every game in
he'll be
this
terrible.
summer's tournament.
Because he doesn't love defending like Wes Morgan does.
Well,
You've got to love defending.
I disagree
Why
with
don't
that. The reason why, because I read the autobiography of Alex Ferguson, and he actually dedicated a little bit to Chris Smalling and said that he's a guy that just loves defending.
Did he say that?
He said that
Wow.
about Chris
Okay,
Smalling.
fair
So, but the big one at the moment about the Leicester team going into the the international setup is Danny Drinkwater. That came up quite a bit in the press today. Box to box midfielder, has an energetic midfield with Kante. Doesn't score goals, but he definitely sits in front of that back.
But he has a good
four.
touch as well. He has a nice touch. I've seen some of his passes.
I
Decent.
personally think that Danny Drinkwater, I think he's a good player, but I think he's a good player within that Leicester system. I think if you took him out of that team and put him in another team, I don't necessarily think he'd function as well. Especially a team like England, which don't play the same way as Leicester do.
Could you go so far and say that that's probably the same of most England potential internationals in that Leicester team?
I think so, but the reason I would say is that I do agree with you, and I think that Danny Drinkwater should get a go for England. I think
looking for
club
sure.
form.
There's a couple of friendlies coming up.
Yeah,
Yeah, why
club
not?
form should mean you get picked. What I'm saying is it might be a little bit early for the Euros for Danny Drinkwater because he may need to have more experience at that level before he gets picked for the Euros.
I think that's a fair point. But we'll move on to Greg, who is our league leader. So if you go to the footballbetclub.com, you will see that there's a spreadsheet on there tabulating all of our kind of results through the season. Greg is currently he's our top kind of performer. And the first one was Plymouth versus Newport, 1.5. How did that get on, Greg?
Well, I think it was Portsmouth versus Newport first of all. So I think
what did I say?
Plymouth.
Apologies.
But it was Portsmouth. I think we all know how it got on, which was terribly, probably the worst bet of the week. Now Newport turned up and rolled Portsmouth over 3-0 at home. So Portsmouth at home, they lost 3-0 to an indifferent Newport side who also drew midweek 0-0 with someone, which was just even more frustrating. And it was kind of like the bullet of the week that we needed to dodge, and it was just a kind of crazy result that I think caught out a lot of people. But Portsmouth were big favourites going into that, and I was just
last week around the table got a lot of love.
Yeah, I think it was a good bet, but Portsmouth got a man sent off, which was just crucial. So
was that early, late?
It was kind of midway through. I think it was around the half-time break, but I mean they were 1-0 down at that point anyway. But I think they would have come back into it, and they got a man sent off at quite a crucial time and ended up losing 3-0. Their manager, I looked at their manager afterwards. Sorry, I didn't look at him. I read up on him, and he said that Portsmouth are really finding it hard to be consistent.
Yeah,
and I think this bet has, from a betting point of view, taught me that you cannot rely on wins in League 2 and below. And that I'm going to stick my neck out there. I'm going to say, as you go up the leagues, you'll find a better level of consistency that you can kind of rely on. As you go, like in the Premier League, teams will not get silly sendings off to the extent that maybe in League 2 a league leader might find. So
is that a bit presumptuous? Because we mentioned Portsmouth.
But I've been stung many times down there.
We've mentioned Portsmouth previously, where I think obviously when you introduced that bet last week, that they were in a bit of a rough bit of form earlier on this season, maybe a couple of months ago, and they've started to come out of it. I think they won 3 of the last 4, but they were inconsistent. So maybe that's a degree, it's an extension of that inconsistency. But I know that you picked up on the Portsmouth manager there. I read as well that he was furious with his players. Yeah. He was absolutely livid. So that one really was one of the 2 that cost us. Yeah. And it's only 1 out of 2 for you, Greg, which is not what you're used to. I'm
stumbling at the moment. I thought I was quite comfortable, but looking at it, we've got probably about 18 picks left. So we've got plenty of time for me to be caught. I'm starting to look over my shoulder a little bit at the people below. So
is that because I'm right behind you, Sunshine?
Yeah, it is. But you are 1 bet ahead of me. Don't get carried away.
Yeah, that means I'm in second, which is 1 behind Greg.
This is all the secondary
about
talk.
8 bets behind Greg.
Yeah,
obviously what we want is that we land the 8 game.
Yeah,
that's the main thing. I mean, I'd rather we just did that. So
we want to land it as a group. The second one, which again came off which came off as opposed to your first one, was York versus Barnet.
Yeah,
York are at home, both teams to score 1.72.
Yeah, and this was one of those good. But my BTTS record is very good, and I'm managing to pick them quite well. And the York Barnet one was done inside 30 minutes, which is one of those dream bets. The lovely scenario where your bet has landed 30 minutes into a game. Can I just say my voice is a little bit croaky today?
Well, we hadn't noticed, Greg. We didn't say anything, mate.
I was saying a little bit husky, sounding a bit like Mariella Frostrup, only because I went to the global.
Wow, that is a 90s reference.
Isn't it Daniela Frostrup as well?
Who's Daniela?
Who's that woman that had a really husky voice?
Danny Bear?
Maybe it might have been Danny Bear. That's the one.
But no, Mariella Frostrup was the one who she presented a film programme, didn't she?
She did. ITV. Yeah, didn't she get? Was she not on BBC One's film? No,
that would have been Barry Norman.
We're going to apologise for anyone listening under the age of 25.
Yeah, it's like Barry White's love child with Mariella Frostrup, I think. The reason I've got this husky voice is because I actually went to the global bet of the week last week, and I was in the Bangalore League, and I was screaming so hard at Income Tax United, who I backed, and they lost, I think 7-0.
7-0.
So sometimes when you back a bet and they usually lose, it's not by a 7-goal margin.
But didn't you back them on a double chance as well?
No, it was double chance.
It was double chance
by 8 goals clearly.
My word!
One of our followers on Twitter actually tweeted me and called me out and said that is, in all his years of betting, the worst bet he's ever seen. Ever seen called. So
I would
pretty
struggle
proud of
to
that.
find anyone on Twitter who would disagree with him
I don't.
or her.
Funny enough, I don't think it detracts from the global better segment. I'm going to persevere with it later on this week. But that is why my voice is so sore, because
Alright.
the crowd was so loud.
I think that reason is just. But we'll go
Anyway,
over to
they were
Justin
my
now.
bets.
Well, I was just going to say before I started, because we were talking about managers, obviously big management news for yourself, Greg,
Yep.
with Nottingham Forest getting rid of Dougie Freedman.
Dougie Freeman's
Good
finally
point.
gone.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
It was Fawaz Al-Hassawi, the chairman and owner of Forest now, who's very kind of self-centeredly put himself as the main sponsor of Nottingham Forest, which we have now on our chest, is Fawaz Air Conditioning Refrigeration Units, which just rolls off the tongue. I think we're literally owned by a Kuwaiti fridge magnet.
Could that,
Which is,
could that not be down to a lack of other sponsors?
other sponsors. Yeah, sure, we
Yeah.
can get some low-profile betting companies to sponsor. I don't know, but there's lots of big companies from Nottingham. We've got Boots, we could sponsor us. Hooters in Nottingham's quite big.
Or Walkabout,
But
you
no,
know?
I think every Forest fan that I've spoken to is very happy that Dougie Freeman's gone. He never got.
They are happy.
Yeah, we are happy. He did some fairly good things, but if you go to when I was at the away games this season, people were just not liking the style of football. Unfortunately, for every Forest manager that comes in, there's always Forest fans who go, right, you've got to play like Brian Clough straight away. And that kind of legacy of playing good football on the ground, nice football that we sort of remember is certainly still stuck in people's minds, which is a bit unfair, I think. So we just got to win games.
What, a little unfair considering that was how many years ago?
Yeah.
30 odd years ago?
So we've got no one's going to come in for the rest of the season. He said we're going to have an assistant manager for the rest of the season.
Who's?
I think his name's Paul Simpson. I think he's ex-Derby actually.
Oh,
Now,
yeah,
going-
that rings a bell.
I think he was a left side midfielder,
I think
wasn't
he was. Yeah.
But if you think about that in terms of betting terms, I mean, you guys, you're one of those teams which
Yeah.
you brought up last week. Are not going to go down, not going to go
Yeah,
up. You're going to have a bit of a nothing
Certainly
season.
couldn't find a reason
scrape
to back Forest anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean,
Although we
back
did draw with Hull midweek, which is quite a good result.
Yeah, that is a
So-
good result.
Didn't you lose quite heavily to Preston the week before, though?
Yeah, we lost heavily to Preston and other teams as well. But also, who people who've lost a manager is Derby County, and do you know who they've got as their director of football?
Harry Redknapp.
Harry Redknapp has come in for 2 days, and massive game this Saturday. Early kickoff is Forest versus Derby, the only game that matters in the East Midlands. And so Harry Redknapp's going to rock up for his first game in charge as director of football. And do you know where he's going straight after that game? Is he's got to fly off to be the manager of Jordan in the Gulf.
What?
He's got a gig as being the international manager of Jordan for 2 games. It
That's
it's in
got
the
a
press
payday
today.
attached to it.
And it's because he's best mates with that Hamis Al Bin III Prince guy, who was going to be the FIFA director. Do you know they were going to vote for the president of FIFA?
Heck.
He's best mates.
Harry
with
Redknapp goes way up, doesn't he?
Harry Redknapp has got some international portfolio of management jobs that he just keeps ticking over.
I mean, we are digressing slightly here, but you think about the Harry Redknapp's traditional kind of impact on clubs. That means that Derby are going to sign a significant amount of strikers, and which is because he had a bit of an ambassadorial role at Bournemouth, didn't they? And all of a sudden, Bournemouth signed 3 strikers in January, whatever it was. So you never know. You might get some goals at Derby.
They're going to have lots of
Might be
goals,
good
but
for the
they're
both
also
teams to
going to
score
have
from
they're going to have
September
quite a busy accounts
Well,
department
I,
as
don't
well.
think, I wouldn't expect to see Harry Redknapp there in September.
Okay.
I think it's
short
literally
term.
just a short term. He's going to get paid a couple of million quid to do it for
I just
for a
think
month or
I think
two.
all of that puts pay to betting on Derby and Forest for the foreseeable future. Anyway,
Moving on to the review. Continuing the review.
we'll
So
go with
Justin,
mine.
you had
And before, I've already delayed mine enough, but I should say that myself and Nathan, while we were following all the results, we actually went to watch a game ourselves. We went to see Hendon versus Canvey Island in the Ryman Premier Division at Earlsmead, which is Hendon's home ground, although not actually their ground. They're currently ground sharing with Harrow Borough.
Yeah, as a Coventry City fan, I know how that feels.
probably a similar attendance to Coventry, wasn't it?
Mate, there was 123 people there on Saturday.
121 was the official attendance, which is actually almost the equal low for the whole season for Hendon, whose average attendance is normally around 200. So myself and Nathan were on the stands, kind of trying to watch the game, which ended up in a 2-2 draw. Had a bit of everything. Had penalty, red card, had a bit of everything.
Overhead kick
as well.
Yeah, mate, some screamers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they have any chance? Did the 121 people make any chance?
There was zero chance.
There was no chancing. You could hear the managers very clearly, even though we were at the other side of the ground.
Right.
And I should do a bit of a recognition of both managers, Gary McCann and Danny Wheel, who both retweeted me in the week because I thanked Hendon and Canvey Island for putting on a really good game for us.
I think that means they're supporters of the FBC.
I think that does mean that Hendon and Canvey Island are official supporters of the Football Bet Club.
See, a lot of podcasts go in for the Premiership. We're going to go to the bottom and work our way
Grassroots,
up.
baby. That's what
Yeah. And it kind of made me also think that this should be something we do regularly. I know that you're planning a trip to Dulwich Hamlet.
Yeah, I'll be going to Dulwich Hamlet, which is my local team, and also probably future winners of the Isthmian League.
Just call it the Ryman
Prem.
That's on Easter Monday, isn't it? If we get a retweet there, that's a big deal. There's about 1,000 people who watch
their
that
average
game.
attendance is 1,200.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not the hipster team from that division.
No.
Should we take a banner or something? Some free sponsorship maybe?
I'm going to take an A4 pad and I'm going to write FBC on it. And if you look out for that A4 pad of paper.
So basically, while we were standing on the stands, stand is maybe a little bit strong. The concrete steps.
Standing on the stand.
Eating my wagon wheel, which I bought from the refreshment stands at half time.
Wagon wheels.
They do.
The only place in London that still does wagon wheels.
They also sell Sunkist, which I haven't actually seen in a shop for about a decade as well.
If you want to go back to the 90s, then maybe you should go to Hendon Town.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Hendon FC. Hendon Town.
Sorry.
But yeah, so enough of that. So we were standing on the steps watching the game, and I was very nervous the whole time because my games, both of them, were 0-0 for a very, very long time. Now, I'll deal with the one that came through first. I bet on Bromley to beat Guiseley at 1.9.
1.95, yeah.
And it took a while. It was 0-0 for a very long time, but actually Bromley scored 2 late goals and won that one 2-0.
Comfortable.
It kind of went with form. Bromley in a flying at the moment form-wise. The other one, however,
just to concede to that, I know we're taking a long time on your review here, but actually, this reminded me of something that I call the Genko bet.
The Genko.
So I've got a mate from university called Genko. And he's also the person that I texted, lived in Manchester, about was Oldham, Wigan, or Derby, whatever. But when he goes down the bookie, he looks at geography. So what he noticed was that Bromley in South London were at home versus Guiseley, which is way north.
Wait, hold on.
Like
Isn't that?
way.
Are you sure you're not confusing him with me?
No.
Because that's what I said.
Okay, but what?
But you're obviously a disciple of the Genko bet.
Apparently so.
But did you mention the distance they had to travel?
I mentioned it to you. I didn't mention it on the podcast.
Yeah, because this is the thing. What he always does, he looks at the geography, and he has figured out. You, for example, he probably would have bet on that because Guiseley would have to have travelled because they obviously they're lower league.
They're north of Leeds.
They're not going to be able to afford to come down on the day before, stay in a hotel. They've got a long way to travel. It's going to take them 4 or 5 hours, getting up early. By the time they get to Bromley, they're already shattered, and it means that it's going to affect their performance. So that is
I can't see how this
No,
something like a League 2 Hartlepool fees versus Exeter. I mean, that's got to be one of the longest journeys in football.
But Hartlepool might be able to afford to stay in a hotel the night before.
Premier is,
Yeah, something like that. Maybe 8 people in a room.
If you try and stay in a hotel on a footballer's weekend away, I mean, it's not going to get much sleep. I suppose at that level, Hartlepool. Right. Genko bet. Okay.
The Genko bet.
Can you work out what this week's Genko bet is?
I will try and figure it out.
Okay. My second one that didn't come through. Again, I was waiting really nervously. It was 0-0. Northampton scored late. It was Northampton to beat Cambridge. Northampton went 1-0 up with about 10 minutes to go. And I started ribbing you. I started suggesting that you might be on for Soul Blame. And then Cambridge United bailed you out of Soul Blame with a late equaliser. So top of the table Northampton, who just on fire really. They haven't lost in ages. They've drawn like 2 of their last.
They have drawn a few recently.
2 of their last 15 or something like that. So it was completely kind of against the run of play. The only thing I would say is in Cambridge, they are They win one, they lose one, they win one, they lose one. Maybe one thing I could have looked at was Cambridge's form. I did look at Cambridge's form, and it was the indifference of their form that made me bet against them. But they do seem to pick up wins. They'll probably lose this week, though. They're very on off.
The one degree of concern was when you introduced the bet last week that you mentioned that Cambridge were only 3 points off the playoffs.
Yeah, that means
that they're one of those teams which could get in, and maybe preempting that they might fall away because they're in form, but they actually managed to get in there. So fair play to them. Good result to them. Good result.
It was an unlucky pick. I think that's a good pick. So
yeah. And then quickly on some lines, so I backed Millwall versus Swindon, both teams scored 1.7. It was a good shout. Millwall, who were the away team, went up 2-0 within 15 minutes or so. And then Swindon came back. I was a bit concerned that they were going to go down to 0. But the thing was, even though they're 10 points off the playoffs, I thought they had enough to play for, but they actually dug in. And when they dug in, they got a 2-2 draw there. So that was a good result, and that came off. And then the other one was a 7:45 kick-off on Saturday, which was Inter Milan versus Bologna. I was a bit nervous that Bologna were going to park the bus. And it was 0-0 for a good amount of time, maybe 70-odd minutes. But then Inter Milan scored 2 goals pretty quickly. Bologna did get one back, maybe on the 80th minute, but Inter Milan held on. So I was another 2 out of 9.
You're fast becoming our European specialist here.
Well, you did allude to this.
Can I just tell you a fact about Serie A before we move on to your? Unless you want to talk about how amazing you are in Europe right now.
You alluded last week that if that came off, that I was going to announce myself as continental expert on the FBC. So I would like to announce that I am the continental expert on the FBC.
Well, okay, we'll see about that. But I realised this week after looking at some stats that there's more goals per game in Serie A than the Premier League. Does that surprise you?
Very much so.
Yeah, so I think there's something like 2.7 goals per game in every Serie A game, and it's like 2.4. I don't know. But there's more goals. I mean, that's the bias you have internally in your head about Italian football being quite negative and defensive. And there's a lot of late goals in Serie A.
Interesting.
Always in the second half. Very much the case in that game. There's 3 goals came out of nowhere.
Do you think it's related to a lack of quality?
Potentially.
Obviously, the time when everyone thought, Serie A, there's no goals. Just because you had some of the best players in the world, best defenders certainly in the world playing in Italy. Whereas I think it's now kind of accepted fact that Italy is probably the 4th best league behind Germany, Spain and England. So, there's less money in the league, there's less quality. Maybe that could be related to more goals.
It could well be the case. Yeah,
it could well be.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Lack of maybe defensive quality.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just trying to change their game. Maybe even people like late goals. Maybe they just play defensive early doors and then change it later on. I don't know what it is actually, but.
I mean that actually nicely brings us on to this week's bet. So 6 out of 8 last week. This week we'll start off with the wild card bets. This is tribute.
Yeah,
you got 2 out of 2.
He's back in the game.
Kind of starts just because the wild card may or may not be his little red box, be a supporter of a team that plays in red. I'm a little bit mystified by what's going on at Arsenal at the moment.
Because it came out on Twitter that he's an Arsenal fan. Yeah, I mean, news to the world. Shock release. I was looking at the front page of the national papers, but nothing was there. But he's an Arsenal fan. Or he, or she, or they, or whatever.
What do you think about the huge amount of Arsenal fans who want Wenger out? Who, undoubtedly, in my opinion, is the greatest manager they've ever had in their career.
Yeah.
In terms of trophies, he's not. The closest to him are Herbert Chapman and George Graham, who. Still, he's eclipsed both of them. What do you think about that? I mean, I think
for the first time, and I would always be in the camp to keep Wenger actually, but I think if for the first time he looks out of his depth, and I say that with all due respect to what he's achieved for Arsenal, he just seems to be on the sidelines, sort of constantly looking for something to blame.
But he's been doing that for years.
But this season, he just sort of there's no excuse other than how bad his team are, and. They should have won the league this season.
That's the one.
There's just there's no excuse for it except you haven't got it right and your system's not working. And every year it's the same kind of team with the same kind of plan, and they always just stutter through and never kind of get anywhere. And Arsenal fans are just. I also think there's something to do with their ground and the fans that go there. and how it's one of the worst places I've ever been to watch football. And I say that with all due respect to us. I just didn't enjoy it. I've been there a couple of times.
It's so quiet.
And I think they put pressure on their team in a weird way. It's very quiet.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Home-wise, they kind of stumble a lot at home.
Yeah.
And I just think it should be a cauldron, like a guaranteed banker kind of.
Every Arsenal fan would agree that Arsene Wenger has been an incredibly positive asset for their team.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. On the way here, I was actually reading it in the paper saying that Arsene Wenger has given a quote out mentioning how he loves the job. He's more passionate about the job than when he joined. The pressure that he feels, though, is to always keep the club developing. And I think that's where the question mark is. Over the past 4 or 5 years, how much development have Arsenal gone through?
Yeah. Okay, but I guess I just can't see the logic in it. At the end of the day, he will go down as their greatest manager, and if the footnote of that is that they sacked him because he didn't win the league. Okay, yes, it's been a long time since they've won the league, but I just can't.
Yeah,
I can't fathom it. I just think they all think the grass is. I think they all think the grass is greener on the other side. I also think they Arsenal fans have this very inflated idea of where Arsenal should be in the world. And yes, they're a very successful side. After Liverpool and Man United, they're the most successful English side ever, right? Not including European Cups, obviously, because
Nottingham Forest,
Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa have won those
consecutive leagues. Thank you. We're one of only 8 teams, but okay.
Right, but nevertheless,
Are you one of those fans that you mentioned about Forest fans wanting harping back to the Brian Clough era? I think you're one of them, aren't you?
We also won the Zenith Data Cup in 1993.
Zenith Data Cup.
Yeah.
Was that a pre-season one?
No, it was not a pre-season. It was a new cup invented. We beat Southampton in the final 4-2. Kingsley Black.
You
scored.
beat Southampton.
That was massive.
Doesn't
No,
sound
it was a
like
good. It was a good Southampton team. It had Tim Flowers in goal. Had Alan Shearer and Letitia in that team. Neil
Right.
Reddick.
Who else was in the competition?
It was a whole big competition. Lots of people
It was
involved.
income tax.
No, it was like the league. It was like the League Cup, only better.
Yeah.
That's a Wikipedia job. Zenith
yeah.
Data Cup. Anyway,
Yeah, I agree, though. It is a very interesting set of circumstances. Obviously, he'll be there until the end of the season. They have been
they're not going to sack him.
They
They'll
have
never
been.
sack him.
They never is a strong word. I think they've been very patient with him, but there needs to be a return. And I think that Arsenal definitely have the stability, the capability, the infrastructure to be one of the biggest clubs in this country and also Europe. And it's not being realised yet because they're not winning enough trophies.
The reason they'll never sack him is because the fans don't make that decision. The shareholders and the people and he gets the Champions League every single year.
You don't
Except
get
for this
anything.
one.
You don't lift a
They
trophy
get,
for the
but
Champions League.
the shareholders don't care about it. They
money.
get a lot of money, and as long as he keeps qualifying for the Champions League or is there or thereabouts, he'll never get sacked.
So why are they moaning then?
Well, the shareholders are moaning.
If the Champions
shareholders
League-
are moaning. The fans are moaning because they want more than just financial stability. And I mean, he'll be there as long as he keeps doing that. Because they've seen what happened to Man United and what happened when they changed and they were like, whatever, they finished 15th or whatever. David Moyes, no, maybe not. 8th. But they finished out the Champions League. And unfortunately, he will stay there for them. But I think he's kind of like lost it now. I think he's out of his depth. And I've seen what happened to Brian Clough. Brian Clough, and he ended up getting sacked. Really,
I mean, I would say that I would like to see him step down. I'd like to see him. I don't want to see him get sacked. I would like to see him go with dignity. I think he deserves to go with that dignity. He is their best manager ever.
Agree.
And
definitely.
I think that Arsenal fans need to show a little bit more respect for the man, in my opinion. All over like Arsenal TV and stuff like this week, there's just been fans effing and blinding, talking about how he's taking the fans for granted and so on and so forth. And I think that's just totally unfair. Outside of Alex Ferguson, probably, and maybe Jose Mourinho, the most successful manager to have managed in England in the last 30 years by a distance.
Well, that would bring you on to the next question, wouldn't it? Would be like, who would you replace him with? I mean,
that's it. Who's out there?
Like Mourinho? Would Arsenal really want Mourinho? I mean,
they can have Martinez.
Probably quite good for them. Anyway, should we move on or should we?
Yeah, so we are going to go on to this week's bets. We're going to start out of tribute to the wild card who got his first 2 out of 2 for I don't know how long. The first one is in Italy, and he has backed Juve to beat Torino, and Juve are away 1.8. What do we think of that, gents?
The question is, what do you think of that, being that it completely goes against one of the Nathan rules of betting on a derby?
It's the Turin derby.
The Turin derby.
And I
Juve
really
away
hope the
from
wild
home.
card knew that, because I'm not sure that he does know.
I think he knows.
To be fair, he's got bigger things on his mind, what with sugar tax and things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
schools
the
into
budget,
company,
you know, there's obviously
into
the chance of
academies,
it.
all
Yeah,
sorts. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, does George Osborne know that it's the Turin derby this weekend?
I'm guessing not. I mean, Juve obviously are the best team in that league. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of a bit of a given.
The thing is it one of those derbies? I mean, I don't know. I haven't done the research. I hope Wildcard has, but I'm not convinced he has. Is it one of those derbies that's tightly contested, or is it like a Chelsea QPR derby where Chelsea just win it every single
It's
time?
massive. It's massive for you know that town. That's as big as it gets. For Torino, that is their biggest game for their fans, because they obviously it's a bit like growing up in the shadow of the club in your city, like Notts County grow up with hating Notts Forest, but I think that's a massive game for Torino. That doesn't mean they're going to win. I still think Juventus are miles the best team in that league by so much. People like Pogba and people are so much better than anyone Torino's got. However, we do have the Nathan rule for derbies.
Yeah.
And that is for a reason.
So
Yeah, I mean,
as the author of the Nathan Rule, what do you think of it?
I don't like it. I'm going to stay true to the Nathan rule. Obviously, there's two. One is don't bet on the FA Cup because you don't know what's going to happen. The other one is don't bet on a derby because you don't know what's going to happen. And who knows? I mean, the better team is Juve. Torino are quite low down. They're below the middle of the table, if that kind of makes sense, in between the bottom and the halfway time. So they're not exactly, a strong team in that league.
Big club though, really big club. Their stadium's bigger than Juventus' stadium. Their stadium, they're over the other side of the road from each other.
Really?
And Juventus' new stadium, because they built that purpose-built stadium because they moved out of the Dele Alpi and everything, because everyone hated the Dele Alpi. Torino Stadium's about 20,000, holds about 20,000 more.
The one thing I'll never forgive Torino for is for letting us sign Andre Salenzi. And
us being Forest, which is you.
Forest, sorry, not your Forest. Yeah. Football Bet Club didn't sign Andre Salenzi. I guess speaker, but
did we?
He
wild card. That's why he knows.
If we did, I think he would definitely be still the poorest signing that we would have made.
Yeah, but that probably explains his poor strike rate.
Yeah, so I think the jury's out on that one. I don't think us three know that much, and despite me being the continental expert of the Football Bet Club, I don't know enough about that. He got that in quite late, so I didn't have time to do a bit of research on it. But that's 1.8.
Well, if you're not sure about that, then I'm certainly not sure about his next pick.
Yeah,
which is Guiseley versus Dover, both teams to score.
1.7. Yeah.
I have no idea where he's plucked this one from.
He's gone to the National League.
I think he's seen me bet on Guiseley.
Yeah.
In fact, Jenko would say that surely you bet on the Guiseley win, because Dover is a hell of a long way from Guiseley.
That is a very good point. The Jenko rule.
The Edin Jenko rule.
Win. The Edin Jenko rule. Dover. That's got to be a 500-mile trip or something. That's miles away.
It's miles. It's absolutely miles. So are Dover going to be too tired to get a goal?
To even get a goal.
If you sit on a coach for that long, 5 hours, it's going to get cramp.
In that way, it makes me think it's quite a good bet, because Dover are full of goals and they'll at least manage just a sneaky one. They'll be tired of this Jenko bus they're on. And,
the Jenko bus.
The
Jenko bus is coming. Right, and the Guiseley will get one. Maybe that makes sense then.
Will they? I mean, Bromley beat them 2-0 in the end. They didn't manage a goal there.
I've got to be honest, I know nothing about Guiseley. I don't go down to those depths.
I don't know anything about their goals. I know about their form. Their form is poor. Dover had a little bit of a surge mid-season and actually got themselves kind of up in around the top 5, but they've been a bit iffy recently.
I'm going to describe the wildcard bets this week. They're a little bit elusive. We don't know. We're not educated on his bets. Maybe because he got them in quite late, so we didn't have time to have a little bit of a research.
If you compare the wildcards bets from last week with this week, I would say
Bristol Rovers and Leicester he backed, and now he's backing Guiseley.
I would say his ones from last week, despite hindsight, look way more solid than this week's. But that's not to put anyone off who's listening.
I
always have faith in the wild card.
I don't, but I like I think the Juve one will happen. I think Juve Torino. It will be.
Is that on Saturday, by the way?
I don't know.
Saturday, I don't know.
Sunday.
I was going to say, I think the Juve Torino one, I think it could just be like one of those, like I said, one of those kind of derbies where Juve tend to just win it all the time. I think as much as Torino may try, I think that Juve will just be too much for them. The other one, I've got to be honest, scares me. Guiseley Dover, both teams to score. I could be anything. Could be
Yeah.
absolutely anything. That seems like pot luck. Like he's got a
Yeah.
couple of like goldfish to like pick out a random fixture and a result to
He's
go
on
with it.
form. He's back in the game.
He's back in the game with his 2 out of 2. I mean,
Let's
back
trust
it
him.
if you
Let's
will, if
back
you're
it.
listening to this. It's up to you, but we seem to be a little bit sceptical. We're going to move on to Greg's bets, and Greg has a really strong both teams to score kind of record, and that's one of your bets this week, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest. When I was looking through the scores, I found it a little bit hard to kind of pick them out this week. Sorry,
agree.
looking through the bets, I found it a bit hard to kind of pick something. There was a bit of a kind of dearth of good opportunities out there. That being said, Chelsea versus West Ham, both teams to score at 1.75 is my first one. And I just looked at that, and obviously I'm in love with Michail Antonio.
Yeah.
And he is probably the best player in the world right now.
And
Apart from Dimitri Payet.
where is the Chelsea goal going to come from, given that Costa will be suspended?
That's a very good point.
Well, they started Traore, don't they? Is it Traore?
Well, he's the only other one. I suppose Loic Remy's just come back to fitness, so
True.
they've got Loic Remy as well.
Yeah, I think they'll probably get someone from midfield, maybe an Oscar little penalty or something. I just think West Ham they're not going to be able to keep a clean sheet there against Chelsea.
They've kept a lot of clean sheets against a lot
Yeah,
of other sides.
Yeah, I did. I just looked at a lot of stats for that game, and they are absolutely. Chelsea have only failed to score in 7% of their games this season, home games this season, and West Ham have only managed to keep a clean sheet in about 17%. So, about 20%. So, I just think I'm not. Yeah, like that is a good point about Costa, but Costa hasn't been that big a threat, I don't think, this season. That would.
No, when Hiddink first came, he picked up into quite good form. Scored, I think it was like 7 in 8 or something like that, and it's kind of dipped recently. Obviously, he had the sending off the other week at Everton for the potential bite, which later we found out was not a bite. But, but for me, we discussed this a couple of weeks ago when I backed Chelsea. Or thinking about backing Chelsea. I don't know how good they are at the moment. They're certainly in a transition kind of mode. I think there's going to be quite a few players leaving, and I think there's going to be quite a few players coming in. And obviously, new manager is going to be one of those. Conte is going to try and put his own stamp on things.
Is Conte confirmed 100%? There's a lot of.
Oh, Antonio Conte.
Conte
from Leicester was
Conte's the manager of Chelsea.
It's all very cloak and dagger at the moment. He's leaving the Italy job after the Euros
to definitely manage a club.
Yeah.
And they also said that they disagreed with a club coming to approach him whilst he was already the manager. And they didn't. The club didn't approach the Italian Football Association or equivalent of. They went straight to the person.
And
so
that
it sounds
like fairly typical Chelsea behaviour.
There's been rumours of a 4.75 million a year contract or something like that. So it seems pretty nailed on. I think it's a bit of a risk for Chelsea because.
What, Antonio Conte?
Yeah, I know that he won the league with a couple of leagues with Juve. He went to the Italian job. He doesn't speak English. Apparently, he's having intensive English lessons. But it's just interesting.
Even in Pochettino though, and he's fine.
True, he doesn't know what the Premier League is like. Obviously, he will have money, but I just don't think that many of the players that will be there this season are going to be there next season.
That's probably fair. Just going back to Diego Costa, it's not just his goals. The thing is, when they don't have Diego Costa, they just don't have anyone basically working the defence. They don't have anyone holding up the ball. So even when he's not scoring, he's still opening up space for the other players. Whereas certainly when I've seen Remy play, he hasn't done that, and he certainly doesn't cause the same amount of problems.
Yeah, I just think the other reason that I've picked it was because they're both really trying to get something out of this season, and I know Chelsea. I don't believe that Chelsea's season's dead yet. I don't think they're just going to lie down and roll over and think, we'll get mid-table. I think they're going to have to try and get some form of European football. I think they're going to try and play for West Ham. Certainly are playing for something. And so I think. I think West Ham will definitely score. They've got players like Payet. I know what you're saying. The Chelsea goal is a bit of a worry, but at home with the crowds, it's that kind of local kind of derby almost that they'll be so up for it, and I just think it could be something like 2-1 to West Ham in that game. I mean,
it could be. I would worry about Chelsea getting a goal. I really would.
I would say that Chelsea are good. I look at it at a glance and I think, I'm not too sure about that one. But then I look at Chelsea at home, I think they're probably going to get a goal. I look at West Ham, their current form, they're probably going to get a goal. So I'm a bit undecided with that one. I don't really know where I stand. I'm going to say, especially with your recent form, I'm going to back that. I'm going to say that I think that will be 2. That will be a goal either side. But we're going to move on to your second one. which is Atletico Madrid versus Sporting Chicken
Sporting Gijon, I think is a local place.
Yeah.
That's a 1.5, sorry.
It's a 1.5 now.
And you're backing Atletico away from home.
I'm backing Atletico Madrid away from home to beat Sporting Gijon at 1.5, and it's Saturday 3:00 kickoff. And
can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go on.
Did you watch the game last night?
I watched the penalty shootout last night.
Right, the game was played at such high intensity, 120 minutes.
Yeah.
Their first team playing flat out, and I couldn't believe it finished 0-0 because they were really pushing the whole game. Yeah. They're going to be shattered.
Remind me who they were playing again?
They PSV. They knocked PSV out.
Okay, so we're recording this a day after the Champions League game that Atletico played.
If they'd played that on the Wednesday night, I might have been worried. They played it on Tuesday night, and I looked into a bit of research last year actually about backing Champions League teams in when they come back from Champions League on the Saturday.
Oh yeah.
There's this kind of, the bookies put the prices up of the teams, and that bet was 1.4 on Monday, and it's gone up to 1.5 as a result of that extra time situation, I think.
Wow.
And the bookies tend to overestimate the fact that the Champions League teams will be tired. Which isn't the case. I think even if Atletico rested one player, two players, Sporting Gijon have got the worst home record in that league.
They are terrible.
Atletico Madrid have got the best away record. And Atletico Madrid are desperate. They're going to have to win. These are the games they have to win. And if any manager is not going to let their team lie down, it's Diego Simeone. He doesn't give a toss how tired you are. Doesn't matter. You're gonna win that game. And I just think they're too good for a Sporting game. I don't understand what you're saying about a tired game.
And they also had a winter break.
I think it's a bit. I'm just saying. I think the tired Champions League team in midweek is a bit of a myth, and I think you can overcome it.
I think normally I'd say yes, but it's 120 minutes. They didn't play 90 minutes. They played 120 minutes plus a penalty shootout. I think that there's, you can research how on a week to week during the group stages it affects results, but it's not that easy to research how often a team plays 120 minutes in the week and then wins at the weekend. I think you're probably right. I think Atletico Madrid will win that game. I just think it might be a little bit tougher than it would have been had they not played in the middle.
Yeah,
of the week.
it did affect my choice when you said there was a penalty shootout going on. I think it does play into your mind a little bit. I just think they'll probably win it 1-0, 2-0. I don't think it'll be a massive win, but I just think I think we have to take that price as a 1.5 favourite for what is the best away team in that league against the worst home team in that league.
Can we point out that all four of the bets that have been picked so far, we've all said no one can really agree on. And I think this is a week, because I was going to mention this. I thought it was a really difficult week to bet some decent games which are going to come in both to score or also wins. Maybe Justin might correct me in a second, but this might be a bit of a difficult one.
I found it really difficult to find anything around the 1.7, 1.8. There was a lot of kind of things around 1.2, 1.3. There was a lot of things like that, but there wasn't much in the kind of bracket above that. I did have a little bit of difficulty, which is, as we're going to find, why I may have gone.
What did you pick?
Why don't we move on to yours? So Lincoln.
Well, I know I'm going to get slaughtered for one of these, so I'll pick the one which I know at the very least, Nathan, you're going to back because you tried to
steal it off him.
You tried to steal it off me, and that's Lincoln City to beat Kidderminster in the National League. It's 1.57. Lincoln City are only mid-table, but actually are unbeaten. In fact, they've won 3 of their last 4, and the other one was a draw. But they've won their last 2. Kidderminster are bottom of the table. They are the Aston Villa / Colchester of the National League. So I'm expecting a fairly comfortable home win for Lincoln City there.
Yeah, I was surprised that it wasn't more than 1.57. And for those people a little bit confused about me trying to steal Justin's bet, it was the fact that we always get the bets in on the WhatsApp, and I was struggling this week mainly because I thought that not necessarily it was a difficult week as we have discussed and kind of thought about, but I was a little bit late getting them in, and I tried to put that in, and then Justin was like, I've already got that. And this is not the first time this season that I've not read the thread. And we've been like, oh crap, I have to change it. But your second one, Just, do you want to go on to that one?
Well, I'm going to get...
Hang on. Lincoln City. Yeah. Are we 100% sure this is going to come in? I'm
100% sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Is the match going to be on? I know that's your main concern, Greg.
I'm concerned the weather's been very good, so that should definitely go ahead.
Yeah, it's been fine.
I'm just always a bit concerned when we go down to the conference and below. Is the form as good down there?
I don't know. Maybe I know you said earlier that you can't back the wins down there. But I feel confident. Bromley Guiseley came in.
Bromley Guiseley did come in. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I feel confident in this one. I feel less confident in my next one.
Yeah.
But that's because the odds are a little bit higher. So I've gone north of the border.
Yeah.
I've gone Hearts to beat St Johnstone at 2s.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Hearts have won their last 4 on the trot.
Okay.
St Johnstone are only mid-table, but their form has been very indifferent. They won their last game, but
in the Scottish Prem, sorry.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, Scottish Premiership.
Sorry. Yeah.
I know Hearts were in the Championship last year. They ran away with it last year. So Hearts have won their last 4 games on the trot without conceding a goal. And St Johnstone won their last game, but before that they hadn't won in 5. So technically they won 1 of their last 6. I think Hearts will be too strong. My only concern is that despite Hearts not having conceded a goal, they won almost all 4 of those games 1-0 or 2-0. They haven't battered anyone in that time. So that's the one slight kind of
sometimes that's
worry
a sign
I
of
have.
the team, though, isn't it? If they can just kind of grind out the 1-0s and 2-0.
Chelsea won a league like that. So,
Yeah.
they won the Premier League.
I mean, it's quite high, though, isn't it? If the form is that good, why are they 2s? 2s is quite big.
I think it's because St Johnstone are only 2 places below them in the table.
Yeah.
You've got to remember it's a 10-team league. Hearts are 3rd, St Johnstone are 5th. But actually, the difference in what swayed it for me was the form. Looking at the form, Hearts actually were competing with Aberdeen and Celtic for the title in the first half of the season, and then fell away over Christmas. But they seem to have found their form again.
I think from what you say, the form sounds quite good. I'm just worried about our team record in Scotland. If there was one place to not go on holiday, it would be to go to Scotland for us, because our record in Scotland as a team is something like 2 from 16 or something.
From memory, I think the last bet that we had was my one in Scotland, which was 2.2, which is Wraith versus Livingston under 2.2 goals, which I got berated for, and it came in. I think Wraith got a 2-0 win.
Yeah, my last bet in Scotland, I'm blaming on your mate who was in goal for Aberdeen, I believe.
Oh, Scott Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've actually backed Aberdeen this week, so...
Scott Brown, do us a favour, please.
We shall see how Scotty B gets on this week. But
well, hopefully that should come in then. I'm fairly I'm more confident now.
Good. I'm glad I've convinced you.
Yeah. So I will go on to mine, and we're going to stay in Scotland as we were already discussing that, and obviously Aberdeen. And just to reiterate again to those people listening, I was really struggling. I thought I'd just missed the boat and missed some easy ones. I think the Lincoln Kidderminster game at 1.57, which is just, I think that's the biggest banker that we have. I would definitely back that if I could have, I would have. But I've got Motherwell at home versus Aberdeen, and I'm backing
both teams to
score at 1.8.
Why?
Well, I mean, it's not an easy one. I am struggling here, but I think that Motherwell have scored 10 in the last 5. So they've averaged 2 goals a game for the last 5 games. Aberdeen have only scored 6 in the last 5. They've only conceded 1 as well, which means that they maybe are good away from home. Well, not necessarily away from home, but in defence. But the main thing is Aberdeen are trying to really... they're 1 point behind Celtic, and they're trying to go for the league. So Aberdeen Motherwell have scored goals, and Aberdeen are trying to get higher in the league. They're trying to challenge Celtic.
Aberdeen are competing for the title.
Because of that, I'm really hoping that they're going to go out there and go up there and try and win that game, therefore scoring goals. But because Motherwell scored 10 in the last 5, I'm hoping that they also have a good goal scoring record, and that will continue into the next game.
Where are Motherwell in the league? Because I know they finished second last year and actually won the playoff with Rangers to stay up. So where are they in the league?
I think they're just below mid-table, so they're not necessarily, they're around the middle. They're not great.
Bear in mind that it's a 10-team league, so just below the middle.
Mate, just outside the Champions League places.
Fifth is St Johnstone.
Yeah, so I think they're below St Johnstone. Yeah, they're not doing so well. But the last
if Aberdeen
3
have only scored 6 in their last 5, that's not a great goal-scoring record.
But the theory is, why I'm backing them is I think they will go there and they'll see a team in mid-table who are beatable and try and beat them.
Get a goal.
That's what it is. And their last 3 head-to-heads are with both teams to score. So
and they all came in.
Yeah, they all came in. So I'm hoping that Aberdeen got a couple of wins, and then there was a draw in there as well. So, like I say, it's a bit of a sketchy one. I'm looking at kind of form for Motherwell's goals and also Aberdeen's kind of pursuit in lifting silverware at the end of the season. That's what I'm relying on.
Okay, what's your second one?
Second one, blooming heck. I've reverted to form for this one, and I've gone for Walsall at home to beat Colchester at 1.57.
That'll come in easy.
You've backed a team to lose.
Yeah, and we've backed. I think this is
the
probably...
team we back every week.
Hold
to
on. It's worth pointing out that Walsall
fair
are
enough.
in the top 4.
Yeah, fair
They're third.
Walsall,
third,
and they had a
yeah.
good win on Tuesday night.
And they're only third because they are... Wigan have a better goal difference than them. So they're actually on the same amount of points as
I think
Wigan.
that's a solid bet.
Wigan's form are quite inconsistent at the moment. So if I'm in the Walsall team, I'm thinking if we get a few wins here, especially at home against a lower league team, we might be a lower team in the league. We might be able to get into second, automatic promotion. We don't have to go into the playoffs. Blah blah blah. They also lost their last game won their last game 4-1, and that was away from home against Chesterfield. I mean, their form before that recent win was a bit sketchy. They had a couple of draws in there and things like that, and a loss also. So I'm hoping that Walsall, get that win. Walsall, I think, harping back to old memories, I think they've been backed before to win at home.
Yeah, they've let us down before.
And they've let us down, I think, maybe twice. It's definitely more than once.
And Colchester have certainly stunned me. So
yeah. And what I really hope for there is...
But I think that's just you, Greg.
Colchester. I do not go to Colchester very often, so...
I hope for a really early Walsall goal, which means that they're perked up and also Colchester think, oh, here we go again. And then hopefully, I think if they score in the first maybe half an hour, I think it could be 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So that's 1.57.
Were you not tempted by the over 2.5 for that game?
I don't know. I don't really like backing the over 2.5. I backed one under 2.5, which was like walking on a tightrope. It was very, very difficult. It was always really... I didn't really feel that it was safe at any time. But yeah, Walsall, maybe that's a good bet because Walsall scored 4 in their last game. I'm not too sure how Colchester got on. I know they lost that game, but...
Also, talking about teams to lose, I'm surprised no one picked out the Swansea to beat Villa this week. Everyone swerved that one as a little result? I quite fancy Swansea to beat Villa. I've got to be honest.
I agree with you. I agree with you, but it's I suppose to call it a relegation 6-pointer is probably not quite fair. Because
no, Swansea pulled themselves right out.
I think Swansea just say
a
couple more wins.
Swansea are
33, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, they're 2 places above the relegation zone.
And Spurs to beat Bournemouth, I thought was also.
Do you know what? The only reason I didn't fancy that is because Bournemouth have won 3 on the trot now.
Yeah.
Bournemouth in really good form.
The reason I didn't back Spurs was because they're playing tomorrow. It's Wednesday night as we record.
Yeah, but they'll be playing their kids tomorrow.
Well, this is exactly why I avoided it, because they're playing Thursday and obviously the Bournemouth game on Sunday. But when they play tomorrow, I couldn't second guess what type of team they play because last week they played a bit of a not a second 11, but they missed out some key players. They played obviously later on last weekend as well. But either they're going to go right into it and play their strongest team to try and overcome that 3-0 deficit, which means that there might be a bit of a disadvantage on Sunday. But then they also might, like you say, play the kids.
I think they will. I think, to be quite honest, the Europa League is... If you're going to qualify for the Champions League anyway, which they are through the league, there's almost no point in really committing. They might as well just focus their energies on trying to win the league than doing anything else.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
No, I'm not too sure.
I think they'll play their kids, but I was put off that because of the Bournemouth form. Bournemouth have won 3 on the trot. They're looking good at the moment. They've pulled themselves. They're safe now as of last week. But as far as the Swansea game goes, I thought about it, but it was pretty low odds as well. It was 1.61, so I fancied the Lincoln game more than the Swansea game.
The only other banker that I looked at was potentially Burnley to beat Wolves as well. I looked at Burnley atop
Wolves.
The league.
Wolves drew
1.5
last game.
Wolves. Can Wolves get anything?
And they won the one before that.
Burnley are flying though.
Burnley should win that. I was kind of in between that one and my my Chelsea West Ham bet, which maybe considering the flack I just got about Chelsea West Ham, I should have probably picked Burnley, but
I would have backed you.
Going back to the Villa one though, just before we move on, that was actually my kind of trepidation in terms of backing Colchester, because despite those teams really being low down the league, they're probably going to get a draw or maybe a 1 win before the end of the season. I know Villa are terrible and Colchester are.
Why are you supporting me so much with my Kidderminster bet? Because that's Kidderminster in the same bracket there.
Maybe so. But I just felt that, like, I think if we backed Villa, I think you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, every week on the podcast, you said every week on the podcast, we should back Villa to lose and back the other team to win. But they're probably going to have one upset between now and the end of the season. It's just when that comes in, and that's what my worry is with Colchester.
I'm not sure. I think that they're pretty much finished.
I think they could go down as one of the worst teams.
Well, they won't
in
because
history.
they've already got more points than Derby.
But I want
Yeah, no, absolutely. They are one of the worst sides to have played Premier League football currently.
Yeah, they are poor. With a bit of a bewildered manager.
I think it's a real shame. I don't know. I don't call myself a football traditionalist or anything, but I like seeing the old big clubs doing well. I like seeing Tottenham doing well. I like seeing Nottingham Forest to do well. Even kind of teams that I really don't like Leeds and people like that. I like seeing those old clubs doing well, and I think it's really sad to see the state that Villa has gone itself into.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think it's sad that they've the way they've been managed, like from the top, the way that kind of like the chairman hasn't really backed it, and I just think it's a bit sad for those fans.
Well, he's appointed Brian Little, hasn't he, as a kind of ambassador of football or something like that.
Maybe get Dalian Atkinson back to kind of
do with that one. Yeah. It's a bit desperate, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tony Daly,
great team.
Yeah, he was at Wolves as well. Had the worst injury record I've ever seen.
That man could fly. He was like one of those cartoon characters where his legs just went round so quickly that they were a blur. He was
cadence.
So
they call that good
fast.
cadence.
Good cadence.
Yeah, good
He
cadence.
was incredibly fast.
So that's our review done, and also this week's bet. So the wild card has got Guiseley versus Dover, both teams to score 1.7. Also Juve to go away at Torino, 1.8 and get the win. Greg is Chelsea West Ham, both teams to score 1.75. Atletico to go away against Sporting Chicken Goujons and win at 1.5. Also Justin's is Lincoln City versus Kidderminster at 1.57.
That's for the home win.
That's for the home win. Also Hearts versus St Johnstone, again the home win at 2s. Mine is Aberdeen to go away and get both teams to score 1.8 versus Motherwell, and Walsall versus Colchester, a Walsall home win, which is 1.57.
Yeah, if you can get a full roundup of those on the footballbetclub.com as well. But yeah, it should be a successful week. I've got a real feeling we're going to do this now, guys. I'm really positive. Really positive.
Well, that's in contradictory kind of ethos to what we've talked about this podcast. We seem a bit nervous about this week.
Yeah,
we've
all managed to kind of talk each other out of a few bets today.
We're going to do it. I feel really strong about this now.
But that's what happens if you back a weekly accumulator. There are so many weeks where you think definitely this team, definitely that team. But there are also going to be those weeks where you think maybe it's a little bit dry and maybe we're struggling a little bit. You never know. This might be the one.
And also one thing that I'm also positive is about this week's global bet. Which,
it can't get any worse.
No, now I've taken
7-0.
When you never lose faith in the global bet. Now this week we're going.
Are you betting on South United? Because I think you should bet
on
South United.
It was 7-0 last week.
If anyone is betting in the Bangalore League, South United are on fire.
Yeah,
and we know that the odds will be minimal. However, they haven't got a game on this week. I checked.
International break,
and it's just too far for me to go again. So this week I'm going to be flying to the Jamaican Premier League.
Really?
I need a little holiday after the South United game. I'm going to Montego Bay United, who are playing Cavalier.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're Cavalier by nature.
So they're going to play a 0-0-10 formation. That's what I'm hoping for.
Cavalier play 10 up front, and I'm hoping that will work in our favour as Montego Bay United are 1.9. And that is Thursday night at 8:30 British time. So we can all tune into that. I don't know what.
So you're back in a home win, Montego
Bay. They're actually away. Montego Bay are away at Cavalier, but Jamaica's quite it's not that big.
No.
So.
It's not going to be the Jenko rule, is it? It's not going to apply.
Jenko rule does not apply to this game. So,
the Caribbean League.
So we're looking for Montego Bay to do us a favour and get the global bet back on track.
Yeah.
So there we go.
All right then. Well, global bet of the week. Hopefully, what's your odds now? No, what's your ratio? No, what's your ratio? I think
we're 2 from 5.
2 from 5. So it's not great, is it?
It isn't great.
It's not great,
but
mate.
it's just a bit of fun.
Yeah.
It is not a serious bet.
We don't include it in our accumulator, and we would like to remind everyone that you should gamble responsibly.
Yeah.
As I said before at the start of the show, we are just 3 friends who put a little bit of money on each week. We're not betting our houses, our livelihoods, or anything like that.
Yeah.
So please gamble responsibly when you do.
Yeah, and if you do want a rundown of this week's bets and plus all the other information that we've mentioned, please go to thefootballbetclub.com. Again, please do follow us on Twitter. We do get a few messages on Twitter these days, don't we?
We're getting a lot.
So,
there's quite a lot of action. What's
Bandini?
No, Bandini, but we got a retweet from a very well-known football tipster.
We did.
Or a
didn't we?
tipster
We
of
got-
some kind.
The other
Yeah.
tipsters are trying to come in and give us some really good feedback, really positive, and
Yeah.
it's been nice, especially on a Saturday afternoon when all the goals are flying
Yeah.
in. There's a lot of banter, I suppose you'd have to say, but
So the
yeah.
rejuvenated wildcard is at wildcard_FBC. Greg is at Greg_FBC. Justin is at FBC_Justin, and I'm at FBC Nathan. Hopefully we'll try and get a few retweets from some lower league teams as well this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
thanks,
Lower league managers.
thanks to Canvey Island and Hendon for
Yeah.
supporting us and retweeting the Football Bet Club.
I'm going to say the Canvey Island left back, who was number 3. I've got no idea what his name is because on the back of the programme there's no squad numbers. It's just 1 to 11. They just give out the shirts on the day. Honestly, I have no
Okay,
idea.
wow.
But he had a storming game at left back.
Yeah, he was excellent.
He was
I also
brilliant.
thought the lad that got sent off was excellent as well. The one who handled it on the line.
Oh, hopefully
I
they
can't
listen
remember.
in, they back all 8, we all come in and we can go out for a big night out with the Canvey Island left back
Yeah.
and celebrate.
I don't know. he
Get
looked-
loads of girls.
He looked fairly fearsome.
He did,
It's
yeah.
like
He looked
Stuart Pearce,
stone-faced.
non-league Stuart Pearce at left back.
He looked like the sort of person who'd, well, you wouldn't like to go out with him on a Saturday night.
In that case,
necessarily.
let's celebrate on our own. And,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
maybe see him later.
So we're going to get another podcast in before the Dulwich Hamlet game, are we?
We will do.
Yes,
yeah, we
yeah.
will do.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we'll maybe have a pre-match.
We'll be minted by then.
Yeah. Preamble on the Dulwich Hamlet game maybe
Yeah.
next week. But
Okay.
yeah, so please do bet responsibly,
All
and
the
we'll
best with
see
your bets.
you next week. All the
Okay.
best. Bye bye.
See you later.
Take care.